And I want to go now to Washington and talk to a former CIA analyst and now Senior Vice President at the Center for Security Policy, Fred Fleitz. Fred, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Japan there saying that they're going to take action at the United Nations. Well, we saw new sanctions being taken out against Pyongyang just days ago. What can they do now at the United Nations?
Well, Japan takes this very seriously. When North Korea fired its first missile over Japan in 1998, the outrage kept them from doing this until this past August, and now we have another missile shot over Japan. I think Japan is going to try to get more sanctions. China and Russia have been reluctant to initiate sanctions in response to missile tests, and after the recent resolution this week, I don't think there's going to be another one. But I think Japan is going to make the point to China that this is going to change the power dynamics in Asia, because this is moving Japan towards more missile defenses and possibly going nuclear, something China does not want.
So do you think China is key here?
China is absolutely key. There's more China can do. And frankly, I think China is very angry at what North Korea is doing. There also are reports that China is worried about radiation seeping across the border from North Korean nuclear tests. This is putting China in a position it did not want to be in. To an extent, China has tolerated North Korea's belligerent behavior because it was irritating to the United States. But I think North Korea has crossed a line.
Fred, I want to go to this missile test that we've seen today. Was it expected? Because there were reports in the last couple of days that North Korea was preparing to test an intercontinental ballistic missile. So was this expected?
I think it was expected. This likely was a liquid-fueled missile, which means spy satellites knew it was going to be launched. It's interesting it was launched from the suburbs of Pyongyang or the Pyongyang airport. That's because North Korea was worried the U.S. might try to take it out on the ground. And I also wonder whether it was fired over the Japanese island of Hokkaido because the North Koreans were worried if southward it would appear to be an attack on Guam, and the U.S. would try to shoot it down.
Fred, we also saw on September 3rd a reported hydrogen bomb being tested underground by North Korea. Explain to us the significance of testing intercontinental ballistic missiles and hydrogen bombs.
Well, I mean, the argument several years ago was that North Korea's missile and nuclear programs are a deterrent. But we now have the U.S. intelligence community saying that North Korea has 60 nuclear weapons. It now may have a hydrogen bomb. I might add, I don't think they have a hydrogen bomb yet, but I think they'll have one quickly. The U.S. intelligence community has said they can place nuclear warheads in ICBMs. This is an offensive program, not a deterrent program. And I think its purpose ultimately will be to reunite the Korean Peninsula along North Korea's terms.
We often hear this term saber rattling when we look at Kim Jong-un's actions. Why do you think it's now offensive? And if it is offensive, what's the next step here?
I think the short term is that the North Koreans would like to extort concessions, and they know this is successful. So many times in the past, through so many U.S. presidents, if North Korea acted badly enough, they got a significant payoff in concessions, energy assistance, food assistance, financial assistance. I think that could be part of it. But long term, I think the North Koreans have much more in mind.
Do you think that we could possibly see new sanctions that do include a complete ban on oil imports?
I think that's coming. I don't think it's going to happen after this missile test because the Chinese and the Russians just agreed on as much as they were prepared to agree on now. But I suspect Russia and China is going to go further. I also believe the United States is simply going through the motions by going through the UN. I think Donald Trump is checking the boxes on council resolutions before he discusses more drastic steps, such as shooting down missiles or taking them out on the ground.
So explain to me where you're going with this. Do you think we're going to see them now, the Americans and its allies, shooting down any further tests, or are we going to see everyone sitting down at the negotiating table and giving North Korea the concessions that you spoke of?
Donald Trump is not going to give concessions to North Korea, but I got to tell you, I pray there's never military action involving North Korea. I want us to go down every peaceful avenue every sanctioned avenue, every diplomatic avenue before that's considered. And I think that's what this administration wants to do, to reassure our allies if military force is ever necessary, we tried everything else.
And do you think that's what Donald Trump wants to do? We did see him using particularly fiery language on Twitter with regards to Pyongyang's missile tests.
I think what Trump is trying to indicate to the North Koreans that this is not okay. We saw with the Obama administration, we vote for Security Council sanctions, they weren't enforced, and we would pretend that this was a solution when they clearly weren't. I think Trump is saying, okay, we're going the UN route, but this is not going to be it if this behavior doesn't stop.
Okay, let's talk about Japan. They're extremely worried. They've protested this latest launch. They've called it an intolerable provocation. What can the Japanese do in terms of their own, making their cities safe for their people, A, and B, on the international front?
Well, Japan's been saying some time they would shoot down missiles fired over their territory. I think that's going to happen. I think Japan is going to significantly increase its missile defense, and I think the debate in Tokyo over Japan developing its own nuclear deterrent, that's going to happen if we continue on this trajectory for that to happen. That's a card Japan can play to get China to step up to the plate and do something.
Okay. Fred Fleitz, it has been a pleasure talking to you. Fred is the Senior Vice President at the Center for Security Policy.